William Wallace was born around the year 1270, in a time when Scotland was a land of rugged beauty, strong traditions, and constant struggle. Rolling green hills, mist-covered valleys, and stone villages shaped the lives of its people. Scotland was not a wealthy kingdom, but it was proud and fiercely independent. William grew up hearing stories of ancient heroes, clan loyalty, and the importance of freedom. These stories would later become the foundation of his life's purpose. Little is known for certain about Wallace's early childhood. He was likely born into a minor noble family, which meant he received some education. Unlike many peasants of his time, William learned to read and write, and he was trained in Latin and French. He also learned how to fight, ride horses, and use weapons, skills expected of a young man who might one day defend his land. Even as a boy, Wallace was said to be tall, strong, and determined, with a sharp mind and a deep sense of justice. At the end of the 13th century, Scotland faced a serious crisis. King Alexander III had died without a clear heir, leaving the country politically unstable. England's king, Edward I, known as Longshanks, saw this as an opportunity. Edward was powerful, ambitious, and ruthless. He believed Scotland should be under English control. Using political pressure and military force, he invaded Scotland and declared himself its ruler. English soldiers occupied towns, collected heavy taxes, and punished anyone who resisted. Many Scottish nobles submitted to Edward out of fear or self-interest, but ordinary people suffered greatly. William Wallace was deeply affected by the injustice he saw around him. English laws replaced Scottish customs, and violence became common. According to legend, Wallace's personal rebellion began after English soldiers killed his wife, Marion Bradefute. While historians debate the details, the story reflects a larger truth. Wallace's fight was fueled by both personal loss and national oppression. What began as anger soon turned into a larger mission to free Scotland from English rule. Wallace did not start as a great general. At first, he led small groups of rebels, attacking English patrols and supply lines. These early actions were risky but effective. Wallace understood the land better than the English soldiers did. He used forests, hills, and surprise attacks to his advantage. Slowly, his reputation grew. Farmers, villagers, and former soldiers began to join him. To them, Wallace was not a noble seeking power, but a man willing to stand up when others would not. As Wallace's forces grew, so did English concern. In 1297, Wallace joined forces with another Scottish leader, Andrew Murray. Together, they planned a bold move against a much larger English army near Stirling Bridge. The bridge was narrow, allowing only a small number of soldiers to cross at a time. Wallace and Murray waited patiently as English troops began crossing. When the moment was right, they attacked. The English army was divided and unable to respond effectively. Many soldiers were killed or forced into the river. The Battle of Stirling Bridge was a stunning victory. It proved that the English were not invincible, and that strategy could defeat superior numbers. Andrew Murray was badly wounded and later died, but his contribution was crucial. Wallace emerged as Scotland's greatest hero. Following the victory, he was appointed Guardian of Scotland, ruling in the name of the absent king. For the first time in years, Scotland tasted freedom. As Guardian, Wallace faced enormous challenges. Scotland was poor, divided, and still under threat. Wallace led raids into northern England to weaken Edward's control and to secure supplies. These campaigns were harsh, and war brought suffering to civilians on both sides. Wallace understood that freedom came at a terrible cost, but he believed the alternative submission was worse. King Edward I could not ignore Wallace's success. In 1298, he personally led a massive army into Scotland. The two forces met near Falkirk. This time, the English were prepared. Wallace's army consisted mainly of infantry armed with long spears, arranged in tight defensive circles called chiltrons. At first, these formations held strong. However, English archers then attacked from a distance, breaking the Scottish lines. English cavalry charged, and the battle turned into a devastating defeat for Wallace. After Falkirk, Wallace resigned as Guardian. He knew that Scotland needed unity, and his leadership had become controversial among the nobles. For a time, he disappeared from public life. Some believe he traveled to France to seek support for Scotland's cause. Others say he continued fighting in secret. What is certain is that Wallace never surrendered his belief in Scottish independence. Eventually, betrayal brought Wallace down. In 1305, He was captured near Glasgow by Scottish nobles loyal to England. He was handed over to the English and taken to London in chains. King Edward wanted to make an example of him. Wallace was charged with treason, even though he argued that he had never sworn loyalty to the English king. His trial was swift and unfair. William Wallace was executed in a brutal manner meant to frighten others into obedience. He faced his death with courage, refusing to beg for mercy. Though his life ended, his spirit did not. News of his execution spread quickly, and instead of crushing resistance, it strengthened it. Wallace became a symbol of sacrifice and defiance. Years later, another leader, Robert the Bruce, would take up the fight. Inspired in part by Wallace's example, Bruce led Scotland to victory at the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. Eventually, Scotland regained its independence. Though Wallace never lived to see it, his struggle made that victory possible. Today, William Wallace is remembered not just as a warrior, but as a symbol of freedom. Monuments stand in his honor, and his story is taught as part of Scotland's national identity. He was not perfect, and his life was shaped by violence and hardship, but his courage continues to inspire. Wallace believed that freedom was worth fighting for, even when the odds were overwhelming. His story reminds us that one person, driven by conviction and love for their land, can change the course of history.